According to folklore, why don't we want to get stuck in the mist? Well, the mist has magical qualities in the folklore of many cultures, but it's especially prevalent in the folklore of the Celtic traditions. And that's because in those traditions, the mist acted as sort of gateway between the mortal world and the spirit world, or the other world. And as a gateway, beings from the other world could enter our realm through the mist, and vice versa. Mortal man could be lost in the mist and accidentally wander into the other world. Now, why is this important for the Appalachian region? Well, it's not because there's a lot of Scotch-Irish settlers here. It has to do with the Fae. You see, there's a lot of people who believe that the beings that we often refer to as the Fae, or the fairy folk, or the fair folk, or little people from the Celtic tradition are more of a universal interdimensional being that can enter our world through places of power. And different cultures have different names for these beings based on their culture. And of course, in the Celtic tradition, it's the Fae. Now, you'll find if you study the lore of indigenous Americans that many of the creatures and beings from their lore have a lot of similarities to the creatures and beings from the Celtic tradition and the Scandinavian tradition. Beings like the Windanope or the Pukwudgie essentially have counterparts from those other traditions. And this is especially true of the tribes from the East Coast and the Appalachian region. Now, why might that be? Well, there are many who believe that the Appalachian Mountains are an ancient place of power where these beings can enter our world. And it just so happens that the Appalachians are so old, they were once part of a mountain chain in Pangaea that was connected to the Scottish Highlands and even Scandinavia, places where all of these beings and all these creatures from folklore share a lot of similarities. So if this theory about the creatures and beings from folklore is correct, then we can assume that the strange cryptids and creatures that people encounter here in Appalachia are coming from the same place as the strange cryptids and creatures and beings that people encountered in the Celtic world or the Scandinavian world. And if that's the case, we can also assume that the folklore surrounding the mist as being gateway can also be true. And that's why you don't want to get stuck in the mist here in Appalachia.